The boy who said it out loud. Nia Harper told herself she would be calm today. Professional. Unbothered. The kind of calm that made rude people feel silly for trying. It took her exactly 4 minutes to fail. Because the moment she stepped into the lobby of Wexler Grand Hotel, polished marble floors, gold-trimmed columns, a chandelier dripping light like diamonds, someone looked her up and down like she was a stain. The security guard at the front didn't even try to hide it. His eyes paused on her plain navy blazer, her scuffed flats, and the tote bag that had seen better days. "Deliveries are through the back," he said, waving her away without asking a single question. Nia inhaled slowly. The old version of her would have argued. The tired version would have turned around and gone home. But she wasn't either version today. "I'm not a delivery," she said, keeping her voice gentle. "I'm here for the charity gala. I'm on the schedule." The guard snorted like her words were a joke. "Sure. And I'm the president." Behind him, 2 women in sparkly dresses glanced over and smiled in that sharp, thin way people smiled when they wanted you to feel small but didn't want to be caught doing it. Nia felt the heat rise in her cheeks. Not because she was embarrassed. Because she was angry. Because she knew the script. She'd lived it. The polite denial. The quiet disrespect. The way the world assumed you didn't belong in rooms with chandeliers unless you were serving the people who did. She reached into her tote bag and pulled out a folded invitation. "Here," she said. "Please check my name." He didn't take it. He just stepped closer, blocking her path. "Ma'am, don't make this difficult." And that word, difficult, hit her like a slap. It was what people called you when you refused to accept humiliation politely. Nia's fingers tightened around the invitation. Her heart beat harder. She could feel eyes on her now. More eyes. Curious eyes. Judging eyes. A small crowd forming the way crowds always formed when someone like her was being handled. "Is there a problem here?" a voice asked. The sound was calm, low, and controlled. The lobby seemed to shift, as if even the air had decided to pay attention. Nia looked up. A man walked toward them, tall and composed, wearing a black tuxedo so clean it looked tailored by silence itself. His hair was dark, neatly styled. His expression was neutral, but his eyes were sharp in a way that made the guard straighten without meaning to. That man was Damon Wexler, the millionaire hosting the gala. The name that made donors compete to impress him. The name that made staff whisper. The name that made headlines. And he was looking at Nia like she mattered. The guard stammered. "Mr. Wexler, I didn't realize." Damon didn't look at him. He looked at Nia. "Miss Harper." Nia's throat tightened. "Yes." He nodded once, like confirming something he already knew. "You're expected." The guard's face changed instantly, like someone had hit a switch. "Oh, my apologies, ma'am." "Of course. Right this way." That sudden respect tasted bitter. Nia stepped forward, but Damon didn't move immediately. Instead, he glanced at the guard with a quiet stillness that felt like warning. "No," Damon said. "She can walk in on her own." The guard froze. The women in the lobby looked down, suddenly very interested in their phones. Nia walked forward, passing them all. Her hands were steady. Her face was calm. But inside, her chest felt like it was full of broken glass. Because this wasn't the first time. And she knew it wouldn't be the last. Damon fell into step beside her. "I'm sorry about that," he said. Nia gave a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's not your fault." He didn't argue. He studied her with something like thoughtfulness. "Are you okay?" he asked. The question was simple. But it landed heavy because almost nobody asked it. Most people assumed you should be okay with disrespect as long as it wasn't loud. "I'm fine," Nia lied automatically. Damon didn't push. Instead he said, "My nephew is here tonight. He's 7. He talks too much." Nia blinked at the random shift. "That sounds exhausting." For the first time Damon's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "It is." They entered the ballroom. It was worse than the lobby, brighter, louder, glittering with wealth. Men in tuxedos. Women in designer gowns. Champagne flowing like water. Laughter loud enough to feel like power. Nia adjusted her blazer and reminded herself why she was here. She was the founder of Second Chances, a non-profit that helped women returning to work after homelessness, domestic instability, and long-term unemployment. Her programs had saved real lives. Her work had earned awards. But awards didn't erase how people looked at her before they learned her name. Tonight she was supposed to give a short speech, 5 minutes, about dignity, opportunity, and what real charity looked like. She'd practiced it a dozen times. But as she walked through the room she heard it. A whisper. "She's the speaker?" Another whisper. I thought it would be someone, more polished. A woman brushed past Nia and didn't even pretend the shoulder bump was accidental. Watch where you're going, the woman murmured, then smiled sweetly like she'd done nothing wrong. Nia clenched her jaw. She kept walking. At the far end of the room, Damon's nephew sat on a small chair near the stage, swinging his legs. He had honey-brown eyes and a face full of curiosity, like the world was a puzzle he couldn't wait to take apart. He saw Damon and waved wildly. Uncle Damon. Damon nodded at him. Then, to Nia's surprise, he guided her toward that little table. Nico, Damon said. This is Miss Harper. Nico looked Nia up and down like a tiny detective, then grinned. You're pretty? Nia laughed before she could stop herself. It was so unexpected and innocent it cracked something open. Thank you. Nico leaned closer, whispering as if sharing a secret. My uncle thinks so too. Damon's head snapped toward the child. Nico. Nico didn't stop. He looked delighted like he'd just discovered a magic trick. He said you were pretty and smart and brave. Nico, Damon repeated, sharper this time. But Nico was a child. And children were unstoppable when they believed truth was a gift. He said, Nico continued, louder now because he didn't understand why this was suddenly serious, that you don't belong here because you're too real for these people. Silence spread. Not the soft kind. The dead kind. The kind that turns a ballroom into a courtroom. Every head turned. Nia's breath caught in her throat. Damon's face went still, like a door had just slammed somewhere inside him. And in the front row, one of the richest donors, an older woman with a jeweled necklace and a cruel smile, let out a small laugh. Oh, the woman said. Did he say that? Nia could feel the room waiting. Watching. Hungry for embarrassment. Nico looked confused by the tension, but he pushed forward anyway, proud of himself. Yes. He said you're the only one here who actually helps people and that everyone else is just... Nico, Damon said softly, and that softness was somehow more terrifying than anger. The child paused. The donor woman leaned back, smug. Well, she said, that's quite a thing to say about the people who fund your little projects, Ms. Harper. Nia's skin went cold. Because now the trap was set. If she defended Damon, she'd look ungrateful. If she stayed silent, she'd look guilty. If she stumbled, she'd prove every whisper true. And the worst part? She saw it clearly, this moment could destroy her nonprofit. Not because her work wasn't real, but because wealthy pride was fragile and vindictive. Damon looked at Nia. And for the first time she saw something in his eyes that wasn't control. It was regret. And maybe fear. Nia swallowed hard. Then she bent slightly, bringing her face closer to Nico's. It's okay, she told him softly. You didn't do anything wrong. Nico's shoulders relaxed. I didn't? No, Nia said. You just said something honest. Then she straightened up. She turned toward the room full of glitter and judgment. She smiled. And she said, loud enough for every chandelier to hear, since we're sharing truth tonight, let's talk about what real charity looks like. The donor woman's smile tightened. Damon didn't move. But Nico's eyes widened like fireworks. And the entire room leaned forward. Because now they weren't watching a poor woman get embarrassed. They were watching a storm decide where to land. They tried to humiliate her. And wrote their own downfall. Nia stepped up to the podium with her heart beating steady, not because she wasn't scared, because she was, but because she'd learned something about fear long ago. Fear was loud. But purpose was louder. The microphone caught the soft sound of her breath. Good evening, she began. My name is Nia Harper. I run Second Chances, a nonprofit that helps women rebuild their lives. A few polite claps. A few people still staring like she was on trial. Nia continued. Tonight, a child accidentally reminded us of something adults forget. Truth slips out when it's not dressed up. The donor woman in the front row smirked. Nia glanced at her, not with anger, but with calm. Some people believe charity is a performance. A photo. A tax deduction. A way to feel powerful. Now the smirks faded. People shifted. Nia's voice stayed steady. But where I come from, charity is survival. It's a stranger buying you time. It's someone offering you a job interview instead of judgment. It's dignity. A murmur ran through the crowd. Nia lifted her chin. And dignity cannot exist in a room where people are treated like they don't belong. Her eyes swept the ballroom. Not accusing. Just honest. The security guard near the entrance swallowed visibly. Nia continued. Tonight I was told to use the back entrance. A few gasps. A few shocked looks. Some people looked away. Nia nodded once. It's fine. I'm used to it. But the women I serve. She paused. They're used to worse. The donor woman spoke up, sharp. Is this a fundraiser or a lecture? Nia smiled politely. A fundraiser without a lesson is just an expensive dinner. A few people laughed, nervous, surprised. The donor woman's face tightened. Nia went on. Second Chances doesn't just help people. We track results. We build programs. We teach job skills, provide child care, and partner with employers. She clicked a small remote. The screen behind her lit up. Charts, numbers, photos, testimonials, and then names. Big names. Companies listed as partners. Corporations that were not supposed to be public. The donor woman's smile vanished completely. Because one of the silent partners on that list was her family company. Nia turned back to the microphone. Tonight, I want to thank those who support real change, quietly, consistently, without needing applause. The room buzzed. Damon's posture changed slightly, like he was seeing the full shape of her. The donor woman rose from her seat. Where did you get permission to show that? Nia's expression remained calm. Permission? Your company signed partnership contracts. Your legal department approved them. The woman's eyes flashed. This is highly inappropriate. Nia nodded slowly. So was telling me to enter through the back. A hush fell again. But this time it wasn't hungry. It was respectful. Because Nia wasn't stumbling. She was driving. The donor woman tried another angle, louder, crueler. You should be grateful to be here at all. Nia leaned into the mic slightly. Gratitude and humiliation are not the same thing. A few claps began. Then more. Then a wave of applause, not polite, real. The donor woman sat back down, trembling with frustration. Nia finished with her strongest truth. If we want a better world, we don't start by polishing the rich. We start by honoring the human. She stepped back from the podium. The applause grew. Damon's nephew clapped the loudest. And Damon Wexler, controlled, powerful Damon, stood up. He began clapping too. The ballroom followed. And in that moment, the people who wanted Nia small realized something terrifying. She wasn't small. She was the reason any of them could pretend they were good. The secret they didn't know she held. After the speech, people swarmed Nia. Not because they suddenly understood her work. Because they suddenly respected what they feared, competence. A man in a tuxedo grabbed her hand. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. We should talk about sponsorship. A woman with diamonds asked, Can we do a photo? Nia smiled, but her eyes kept drifting to the edges of the room, where the donor woman sat stiff, whispering angrily to a man with a lawyer's face. Damon approached quietly, Nico at his side. I owe you an apology, Damon said. Nia exhaled. For your nephew? For the entire room, Damon corrected. For what happened at the entrance. For what you've had to live with. Nia studied him. Most people don't apologize. They pretend they didn't see it. Damon's voice dropped. I saw it. Nico tugged on Nia's sleeve. Are you mad at my uncle? Nia crouched. No, sweetheart. Nico frowned. Because he was worried all week about this gala. Nia blinked. All week. Nico nodded like this was obvious. He said people here are fake. And he said he wanted you to be treated right. Damon's jaw tightened. Nico. But it was too late. Nico was already sprinting toward a dessert table, leaving truth behind like confetti. Nia stood slowly. She looked at Damon. Why did you invite me? Damon hesitated. Then said, because I researched Second Chances. I thought it was impressive. Nia's eyes narrowed slightly. And? Damon's shoulders rose and fell once. And because the person who created it didn't come from money. Which meant she had something most people in this room don't, real understanding. Nia's chest tightened. So you respect me? Damon held her gaze. Yes. Nia nodded once. Then do the hard part. Damon's voice was quiet. What's the hard part? Not just respecting me privately, Nia said. Respecting me publicly when it costs you. Before he could answer, the donor woman marched over. Her smile was back, but it was the kind that showed teeth. Mr. Wexler, she said sweetly, I think we should speak. Now. Damon's eyes stayed cool. About what? The woman tilted her head toward Nia. About your guest exposing sensitive partnerships. Some of us are considering withdrawing our donations. Nia didn't react. She had expected this. The woman leaned in closer, voice soft but venomous. You might be powerful, Ms. Harper, but don't forget who holds the money. Nia smiled calmly. And don't forget who holds the truth. The donor woman's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Nia reached into her tote bag and pulled out a thin file folder. Damon glanced at it. What is that? Nia looked at him. The reason I agreed to speak tonight. The donor woman's face shifted for the first time, uncertainty flickering. Nia continued, voice steady. 6 months ago, Second Chances investigated a job training center. Women were being exploited. Promises made. Pay withheld. Threats used to keep them quiet. The room around them began to listen again. Nia held up the folder. Do you know who owned that center? The donor woman's lips parted slightly. Nia turned the folder so Damon could see the first page. A corporate name. A parent company. And right underneath, an executive signature. The donor woman's. Damon's eyes hardened. Is this real? Nia nodded. We gathered evidence. We were building a case. But we needed one thing. The donor woman's voice shook. You can't. Nia looked at her, calm as a judge. We needed a room full of witnesses to see who you really are. The donor woman lunged forward, grabbing for the folder, but Damon stepped between them, fast, controlled. Touch her again, Damon said quietly, and you'll regret it. The donor woman froze. Nia's heart hammered, but her face remained steady. Damon took the folder gently from Nia and flipped through it. Photos. Statements. Legal filings. His expression turned to stone. This gala, Nia said softly, was never just a fundraiser to me. It was accountability. The donor woman looked around the ballroom and realized she was no longer the one with power. Because now everyone was watching her. And Damon Wexler, her shield, her status symbol, was not standing on her side. Instant karma in a room of gold. Damon walked to the stage without asking permission. He didn't need it. He took the microphone with one hand, the folder in the other, and the entire ballroom fell silent like it had been trained. My name is Damon Wexler, he said. And this event was meant to celebrate giving. He paused, looking directly at the donor woman. But I will not allow my name or my platform to protect exploitation. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. The donor woman stood, laughing weakly. This is ridiculous. Damon didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Miss Klein, he said, using her last name like a verdict, your company will be audited. Tonight. My legal team is already on the way. The woman's face drained of color. Damon held up the folder. These documents will be handed to the proper authorities. And every corporate partnership tied to this exploitation will be exposed. People gasped. Phones quietly came out. Whispering erupted. The donor woman tried to speak again, but the room was no longer hers. It belonged to Truth. Damon continued, voice steady. And to the staff who stopped Ms. Harper at the door, consider this your final warning. Respect is not optional. It is the minimum. He turned his gaze toward the security guard. The guard's face burned with shame. Damon looked back at the crowd. Ms. Harper didn't come here asking to be rescued. She came here offering the chance to do better. He lowered the microphone slightly and glanced toward Nia. Nia stood near the side of the stage, heart pounding, hands clasped together to keep them from shaking. Damon raised the mic again. So here is what will happen now. Every donation pledged tonight will be redirected through transparent oversight. No hidden deals, no fake charity, no reputation laundering. A wave of murmurs, some angry, some impressed. He wasn't done. And anyone who withdraws their donation because they fear accountability, Damon said, was never donating for the right reason. The donor woman's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Because instant karma didn't always look like a dramatic slap. Sometimes it looked like losing the room you believed you owned. Damon stepped away from the mic and approached Nia. In front of everyone he offered her his hand. Not possessive. Not performative. Respectful. Nia hesitated for half a second, then took it. The applause began again, louder than before. But this time it wasn't for Damon. It was for the idea that someone like Nia could walk into a room of gold and still be the most valuable thing inside it. Nico ran up and hugged Nia's waist. I told the truth, he declared proudly. Nia laughed, tears threatening her eyes. You did. Nico looked up at Damon. Uncle, does complicated mean you're scared? The room laughed softly, breaking tension. Damon looked at his nephew, then at Nia. And for the first time he smiled without hiding it. It means, Damon said, I'm learning. Nia leaned down to Nico's level. You did something brave tonight, she told him. But remember, truth should help people, not hurt them. Nico nodded solemnly. So I should tell the truth nicely? Nia smiled. Exactly. The donor woman left early, slipping out like smoke, her power evaporating behind her. And for the first time in Nia's life, she saw something change in a room like that. People didn't just applaud her. They listened. Later, as the gala ended and the ballroom emptied, Damon walked with Nia toward the exit. "The back door is over there," Nia said lightly, glancing at the hallway where the guard had pointed earlier. Damon's eyes sharpened. "No," he said. "We leave through the front." And they did. Nia walked through the front doors of the Wexler Grand Hotel, head high, shoulders relaxed, with Damon Wexler beside her and Nico skipping ahead like the world was finally right. Outside, cold air hit her face. She exhaled. Not because she was relieved it was over. Because she realized something important. Justice wasn't always slow. Sometimes it arrived instantly, spoken by a child, backed by truth, and carried by someone who finally chose to do the right thing when it cost him. And Nia Harper, once treated like she didn't belong, left that night knowing she belonged anywhere her purpose took her. Because dignity doesn't need permission. It only needs courage.